Welcome to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. If you've seen my earlier videos, then you probably noticed that I changed the intro. It's thanks to the more advanced video editing and animation software that I've been working with and slowly improving my skill set with them. I hope you enjoyed it, and before moving on to the topic, I'd like to ask you to please hit the like button and to please subscribe if you'd like to support our channel. Thanks. As you probably know, the deplorable Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power series premiered yesterday on Amazon Prime. And apparently, Amazon isn't too happy with the fact that most people don't like it. So much so that they are effectively trying to manipulate the ratings to prevent people from seeing just how unliked the show genuinely is. So this is the IMDb page for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And this user rating of 6.5 out of 10, I consider to be highly dubious. And there's a simple reason for that. If we scroll down here and take a look at the actual written reviews that have been posted, this claims that 74 reviews have been posted. And this particular reviewer gave it a 9. But the number of people who found it helpful is only 564 as compared with 1,800 people who did not find it helpful, which I find rather interesting. So if we go over and look at the actual reviews, the 74 that Amazon is allowing to be seen, let's click here and take a look at the review rating. Let's sort them this way. So initially, again, these are the extremely high reviews that some people are sharing. But again, take a look at this. 104 out of 1,007 found this helpful. 230 out of 1,665 found this one helpful. Only 138 out of 1,111 found this helpful. So the vast number of people do not like this show, and they're trying to express it, but Amazon doesn't want people to see it. So let's just switch here to look at what is the lowest review on IMDb for this show. And lo and behold, it's a 6 out of 10. Now, does anybody actually believe that people haven't been posting 1-star reviews for this or 2-star reviews? There are undoubtedly numerous reviews being posted that are very negative for the series. But guess what? Amazon is not showing them. Why? Because they don't want anyone to see just how truly awful this show is. And guess who owns IMDb? Well, it's none other than Amazon. So go figure, right? So let's take a look at what's going on Rotten Tomatoes as a comparison with IMDb. Bear in mind that the average rating on IMDb was 6.5. And when we come over to Rotten Tomatoes, the average audience score is 37%. I highly suspect that the true average ratings over on IMDb is probably a lot closer to this, but Amazon doesn't want anyone to see it. And unlike IMDb, guess what? You can view the negative reviews that people have been writing on Rotten Tomatoes. So let's take a look at a few of these. So 2 hours ago, Laura wrote, "Boring show that has nothing to do with Tolkien's works. Don't waste your time." Yeah, Amazon doesn't want people to see this or write it on their website. Here's another one. "This is the worst thing to happen to J.R.R. Tolkien since his death." Yeah, and I completely agree with that. "Slaughtered Tolkien's work with activism." Yep, that's pretty much the entire intent of the series as far as I can see. And very short one, "Really disappointing." Another one, "Overall waste of time." And here's a slightly longer one that somebody shared. This is worse than the Wheel of Time. Watched first episode, so slow moving, tried the second, but ended up flicking through it. Boring, really. The main character, Galadriel, is unoriginal. Could be Captain Marvel / She-Hulk. Utterly unpleasant, especially to her friend Elrond. Appears to have no redeeming qualities. The rest of the elves have no screen presence and might as well be replaced by mortals. The Harfoots are irritating, and I secretly hope that they are seized by Sauron and thrown into dungeons. So many things wrong in this show. Summed up by Galadriel leaping into the ocean miles from anywhere. Ridiculous. Won't watch anymore. So this is a great review. I love that. That's brilliant. So here's another 1-star review. The worst crime? It was simply boring. Even if it deviated from Tolkien, I at least hoped it will be entertaining fantasy story. Apart from it being boring, none of the characters were really likable. Everybody in this world seems to be constantly grumpy and self-righteous. The lackluster CGI, cheap-looking production was also surprising considering the budget. They alienated Tolkien fans by deviating completely from the original story, yet they didn't make the show entertaining enough to keep the rest of the audience interested. There is a lot of great TV these days to keep us all occupied, so I'm not mourning this show. It is just curious and surprising that Amazon decided to spend $1 billion on this. I knew that they wouldn't do Tolkien justice, that it wouldn't be interesting enough to the masses to satisfy the $1 billion. But I at least assumed they would take the Marvel route and create something that will be entertaining for the general public. As Mr. Ollivander would have said, curious, very curious. Yeah, it's really surprising that a company would spend so much money on a show like The Lord of the Rings of Power, only to turn it into just nothing but an attempt to spread their personal identity politics without bothering to really take a look at the stories, the information that Tolkien provided that Amazon had access to about the Second Age. So this show, if you're planning to watch it, I wouldn't bother. It's just not worth it. Something else that I'm going to share is a review by a professional critic. And this is an actual well-written review because this critic apparently didn't take money from Amazon. He is actually expressing his actual opinions about the show. And this came out a few days ago on August 31st. And I love the title of the review. The Lord of the Rings of Power review. Amazon's prequel is a kind of a catastrophe. I mean, that really sums it up right there, I would think. There are ways to do a prequel, and The Lord of the Rings of Power does them all wrong. It takes 6 or 7 things everybody remembers from the famous movie trilogy, adds a water tank, makes nobody fun, teases mysteries that aren't mysteries, and sends the best character on a pointless detour. The latter is Uber Elf Galadriel, as played by Morfydd Clark, who spends the premiere telling people to worry about Sauron. In response, people tell her not to worry about Sauron. That's 1 hour down, 7 to go this season. Sound like $1 billion yet? Yeah, no, this does not sound like $1 billion. This sounds like a tremendous waste of money. J.R.R. Tolkien imagined Galadriel as an immortal who leaves a sun-swept garden paradise because she yearns to see the wide, unguarded lands of Middle-earth and to rule there a realm at her own will. Cate Blanchett played her in Peter Jackson's movie as a Vulcan witch for justice. The new Prime Video series that debuted, just yesterday, soldiers up on a vengeance kick. Millennia before Gollum, Galadriel is commander of the northern armies and the Warrior of the Wastelands. She free solos up a frozen mountain alongside an ultra mega waterfall. War claimed her brother and drenched the world in blood. She suspects vanquished Sauron still lingers and has hunted him for ageless decades. Most other elves think Sauron's gone forever. A lieutenant begs her to end the quest and go home because their search party is approaching a land where even sunlight fears to tread. This is not the only accidentally funny line, but it is the most brazenly dumb. Mr. Elf Lieutenant, isn't the sun-scaring shadow country exactly where you should look for the wicked god monster? You would think that. So, yeah, who wrote this thing? Oh, yeah, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, who have very little experience prior to doing this series. So, on the subject of Morfydd Clark's Galadriel, I want to share yet one other review, and because this takes a look at what YouTube reviewer Grace Randolph had to say about the character and the actress. And I found this really, really interesting, so I think you will too. YouTube reviewer and scooper Grace Randolph recently released her review for Prime Video's The Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power. And she took Morfydd Clark's Galadriel to task and claimed that Elrond and a number of male elves are gay. So I'm not going to concern this too much with any elves being gay, because that to me is far less important than what's actually going on with this character of Galadriel that J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay completely morphed into this over masculinized Galadriel, as a lot of people like to refer to her. Randolph uploaded her review for The Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power and noted the review only looks at the first 2 episodes of the series. In a section of the video that she labels Worst Character, she specifically takes issue with Morfydd Clark's Galadriel. And we'll skip down here to where she talks about this. Randolph then turned her attention to Morfydd Clark and Galadriel, saying Morfydd Clark was so happy to get the big role of Galadriel. In fact, she said she fainted when she found out. So I feel bad that I have to report that she's the worst casting choice of the show and drags the entire thing down. She makes Galadriel both an elven Mary Sue and an elven Karen who would like to speak to the manager. I can't believe it. I can't believe she's both of those horrible things. So let's go back to the other review that I was on before this. Galadriel narrates a history lesson prologue. There is a battle montage, Mordor weirdness, then a hard cut to halfling antics. This is the precise structure that began 2001's The Fellowship of the Ring feature. Nori Brandyfoot, as played by Markella Kavanaugh, even looks like Elijah Wood's Frodo, all wide eyes and bushy hair, and the little Harfoot's journey begins with the arrival of a bearded outsider as played by Daniel Wayman. Obvious reference points do this show no justice. In Fellowship, Jackson cranked up a trip to underground Moria into a cinematic horror action comedy rock opera. When an equivalent setting appears here, it's big, bright, and bland. Gee, that just sounds really, exciting, doesn't it? This makes you just want to run out there, turn your TV on, and rush to watch this thing. Yeah, no, not me. Hardly at all. Despite all the streaming war headlines, this series is nothing like HBO's concurrent Game of Thrones spinoff. House of the Dragon is a family drama plus dragons. The 2 Rings of Power episode I've seen feel more like an 8-hour Infinity War with disparate goods coalescing toward a big bad. The one thread that feels new concerns Arondir, as played by Ismael Cruz Cordova, and Bronwyn, as played by Nazanin Boniadi, star-crossed in a disputed land. He's an elf patrolling unruly humans who call him nasty names like knife ears. She's a single mom whose sweet chats with Arondir cause social ruckus. Arondir remembers when the locals fought for evil. Bronwyn's fellow villagers despise the occupying force left over from a conflict no human remembers. I don't think Tolkien intended his elves to seem a tad fascist. Violent forces converge quickly around Arondir and Bronwyn, which means those actors get one flirty scene before the action ramps up. A dwarf-elf alliance looms. There may be bigger things to worry about than, like, interpersonal relations. People keep finding a strange, scary sigil. So congratulations, Rings of Power writers, you brought Sauron to television and made him a TV serial killer. Gee, that just sounds so compelling, doesn't it? It makes you, like I said, it makes you just want to run out there and waste your time watching it. No, it doesn't. I don't want to see this. What do you want from Lord of the Rings now? You'd think that a new tale would want to explore less traveled corners of Tolkien's wide, unguarded lands. And Rings of Power does conjure the elves' previously unseen homeland, Valinor, in two embarrassing ways. First, it's a babbling brook where cute kids frolic. Then it's a heavenly light ray pouring out of parting clouds. The latter is almost a Monty Python special effect. And that's before one person decides, against the furthest stretch of fantasy logic, to swim across an ocean. Otherwise, the first 2 hours stick to seen-it-before places and boring situations. Officious, cliff-adjacent elves proffer blank wisdom. The same wind that seeks to blow out a fire may also cause its spread. Tolkien's saga wasn't anti-industrialization, which makes it hilarious that Rings of Power is an Amazon product. Much press has swirled around the production cost, but if a huge budget made great TV, we'd be on Terra Nova Season 12. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay show no instinct for pacing. Some characters seem to teleport far distances, while others walk slowly between villages, despite horses like existing. A big sea attack looks unfinished, introducing a massive threat that's quickly forgotten. Director J.A. Bayona finds isolated moments of grandeur, but the helicopter shots get repetitive fast. The fights aren't quite up to the Walking Dead level, and the battles won't make any crab feeders nervous. Frequent cuts to an explanatory map are more funny than informative. Gee, again, does this all sound good? Does this make you want to run out there and watch this thing? No. This is why people are hating it. This is why Amazon is trying to silence all Tolkien fans from being able to express their opinions on Amazon-owned websites. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to see more of our videos in the future and help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.